All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about my one of my passions with this hobby. Um, I really enjoy scratch building, as you'll see, um, and how I do it is a little different than most. I think I don't know, but I probably have 40 or 50 buildings on my railroad that are scratch built over the years. So let's see. Do I just roll my mouse and yes? Okay. So these are some items that I've done over the years. I have a library of lots of different segments of the railroad, but in structures, I have a very large one on photos, drawings, etc. The data, historical references, and they're again, my railroad is really based on New England, which seems kind of funny that I live in Arizona. And friends of mine and so forth have sent me photographs of a building, and so from that drawing there, I will try to determine the size of the whole structure, the room, floor plan, and so forth. It's a little bit crazy, but that's what I am, you know. But a good library is essential to making models because you learn an awful lot from doing that. Okay, and this makes things a lot easier. And there's all kinds of reference materials out there. Okay, between NMR, the model railroad magazines that they're there, even though there's a couple less. Um, Again, I just keep adding to my library, if you will. I have probably three uh, drawing, metal cabinets full of um, photographs and literature and drawings of structures and books as well. To where I like to do. All right, so that makes it kind of a little bit easier. It makes it a little harder when you have to do it some ways. I'm also known for my sketching. I studied a profession in college, which allowed me to sketch an awful lot, and it just makes life a lot easier for me to do this. So this is a freehand sketch of a place that I have on my railroad. One of the buildings on here, by the name of Dan Raymond, had a place in Massachusetts, but he also had a cabin up in New Hampshire, St. Johnsbury. I'm sorry, Vermont, St. Johnsbury, Vermont. And so he sends me a picture of this building, which you'll see later. And I said, oh, that is awesome. Can you get me some information? I said, I need the footprint of the building, photographs all the way around, and the size of the clapboard. That's all I need. And you'll see what I did from there. But in the meantime, I'm going to go through a couple of other, let's see what we got here. Okay. Well, I'm a woodman. I have a large collection of wood. I have a large collection of buildings made on my layout from there. But this is some of the areas that you sort of have to deal with relative to building, scoring, and all of that kind of fun stuff. Uh, when give this clinic, and I've done it several places, I gave it at the National down in Dallas. I've done it in California and other areas. Uh, Start with something simple. These are little tiny, four wall cabins, sheds, whatever you want to call them, crossing shanties. And today when you go and buy a kit from somebody, most of them are, to me, what I consider weak in their. Um, it's four walls and a couple other pieces of wood, and it's good luck to you in the Red Sox. And to me, I want that thing so that I can drop it from 6 feet. I can throw it against the wall, and I'm very a strong proponent of bracing, not this little tongue and groove stuff that they use. It's not my favorite issue at all. Okay. And so what I've done in the past is I made up a little bag like that, and what you can't see it, it's too much reflection. Okay, and it's got the four walls, the roof, and some trim and windows and doors. And I held this clinic, like I say, California, down in Dallas last year, and a few other places. And it's fun to see how people build, how they paint, etc. I mean, some people have. Well, I'm not going to go. They don't have a good shape feel for color. But it's an easy way to start, and that's what well. If you haven't done it, it's a good way to do it. A lot of people seem to be afraid of scratch building, and it's actually pretty simple when you really get down to it. Okay, um, and so this was a structure that I did. Um, there was a guy back east. He was a watercolorist by the name of Randolph By, and Russ gave me the guy that was just here gave me a book on that he painted on stations, primarily New England. And I'm sort of have a lot of blood and you know, values back there, family and so forth. So I built this building from the photograph, and it's just a tall, small little with a two-stall outhouse on it. Okay, so here's the tricky part. If you look at that closely, that's every piece of wood, plaster, whatever, but it's mostly wood, that goes into that building. I established the overall dimensions, and then I put all the components, and I worked from there. So the outhouse, the walls, exterior walls and stairs, and all the components to the building are all defined here. Okay, and it may a little be intimidating to look at, but once you start it's really very, very helpful, and it's very easy. Um, so this is the finished building when done. I took it in for judging, so it's just a small little block of foam with a speeder on it. And you'll notice one thing on several of my building. Anybody want to tell me what they notice? And Lee, you keep quiet because you know what the answer is. Um, do you notice anything different about these two photographs? What have I done on a couple of the buildings? Oh, you're awful quiet. Okay. Well, I am known for my pigeons. Um, I trying to think. The guy in Massachusetts that made kits. Well, he always had pigeons in his assortment, and so I've always put them on my structures, and it's always I always get kidded about it, but it's fun. This is a scratch built building called Duffy's Garage. So basically, I started from a sketch and made the entire building inside and outside. So when I mean inside, all the walls are trussed just like you would build, or the roof are all trussed off like you would build a regular building. So now you have to know a little bit about structures. The roof is removable. And inside here is all the detail that would be in a typical garage. I've got a hydraulic cylinder, uh, various types of tools and so forth. It's it took me maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, to do, and a metal roof. So here's a shop. You can see inside. You got a tire bay. Um, and oh yeah, down the lower left is a gentleman. You can barely see it. It's not a really good photograph, but the sink with kind of messy. The light is on. There's a guy sitting on a toilet, a newspaper on the floor, and girly picture. So that little piece of the roof is removable when people want to come over and I want to show it to them, And it's always, oh, you're kidding. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it's fun. But and then bird poop. Again, with the birds, you got to have bird poop. I get kid about that all the time too. Um, this was in Model Railroad magazine last year sometime. Lou Sassy came out to photograph my railroad for one of the great model railroads several years ago. And while he walks in the room and he's walking around, he doesn't say a thing. He's just walking around looking and looking back. And this went on for about 15 minutes. And I said, Lou, you didn't go to the wrong address. What can I help you? And so he finally said, well, you make nice structures. Well, he had an ulterior motive. Dick Elwell, and I don't know how many people know who he was, but had a beautiful light up in Massachusetts. Dick had this Lou Sassy building that's on the left-hand side, which was an old Foscali building. And so he wanted to build NO scale. And so I said, sure, I can do that. So here is a white model that I make of a lot of my structures. I'll show you more. And so this is cardboard with a blueprint, if you will, on just spray cemented on the building. And I can see it. And then I made a full 3D. Actually, I made two of these, one for Lou, and then I gave it to a friend of mine here recently as a birthday present. So, I'm running out of room. But again, it's all wood. It's a nice medium to work with. Um, and you can paint. It takes paint like unbelievable. You can do whatever you want with it. And it's just a very nice material. And here's the white model, as I showed you earlier. These are to scale. And because I actually sent the model to Lou so he could put it on his railroad, take a look at it. And then he called me up and said, that's fine. Okay, fine. And then I went on the build. So here's the build of the model. And if you'll notice, the, there's a, the walls are not, 90 degrees to anything. Well, there's one maybe. Um, but I very heavily embracing on the inside, corner bracing, internal brackets, etc. And that's key to keeping a building from, well, I don't have to worry so much from here because we have relative humidity of almost zero. But if you live back in a humid area like Florida or East Coast, I would think humidity does potentially play havoc on a railroad. So um, you'll see a lot of vertical race embracing and corner bracing in this model. And that was the finished model. Lou put in the Coke bottles and the guy sitting in the chair on his thing. Another building. I made two of these years ago. Wayne Wesolowski, and I don't know how many people know who he is, but Wayne was a chemistry teacher in Chicago. Moved down here to Arizona years and years and years ago, and this is it was in Railroad Model Craftsman. This is again my library. Railroad Model Craftsman back in 1980 was published. Well, I built it maybe 5 years, 10 years ago. I built two. One for Russ, my friend was here, plus myself, and it was a fun build. That's the finished model. Um, I was at a we back then when I started this, there was LEDs didn't exist. LEDs have really become the real interesting part of this whole process as far as structures because you can light anything and everything up. Now, if you've built it where the roof is permanently glued on, not so easy. And so I have not put any lights. I think there's one on the outside of this one. I could see some wires hanging down, but there's not much. Um, Several years ago, I was in Florida on business, and I walked into a hobby store near Orlando, but I don't remember exactly the city. They all become a blur. And I saw this. There were a couple of platforms with these models on them. That was just one. There were a few others as well. The guy that built this apparently I don't know what he did to irritate the NMRA, but he was disbarred. But his workmanship is wonderful. It really is. And so I took some photographs. I came back and I made them as well. Because I just really thought they were wonderful. And again, what you'll see here is photographs of the model I saw on the left, right, and middle. And then the far hand, right hand side is just a little sketch sort of covered over there by that. Anyhow, yeah, Ron Dillon. Again, this was back in 1974, it looks like, that I saw these things. So here is the model under construction. If you look in the lower left-hand photograph, you'll see the roof is not on, but all the walls are up, and you can see all the bracing that's inside that, and you can see it in the upper left as well. Um, I mean, I won't say you can drop this, but I mean, it's built held for stout. I mean, it's needs to be very, very strong, and I don't want it to move, and um, so it's all basswood. Okay, that and yellow Elmer's glue, wonderful. I buy it by the gallon. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Thurman, West Virginia. This was in magazine. It's no longer around. Out of California. And I thought that was an interesting structure. Dual main line. I said, this is pretty nice. So this is in Thurman, West Virginia, as I said. And I said, I think I could build it. Well, what I had was, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump that one. Uh, they were very nice. In fact, besides the photographs of it, they also had a drawing, front, back, and side. I said, oh, this is sweet. So I did. Um, Now, this building is quite long. If anybody has seen it, let me see, it's quite long. And so I mounted it to a piece of plywood, as you'll see in this photograph. And that was the good news. The bad news was it warped. Uh, and that became a dilemma. So what I had to do is to take it back off again and tack it down real well so that Billy would not warp. But these back porch steps. The back of the building is actually prettier than the front, but the back of my building faces, if you're about 7 feet tall, you can see it, but it faces an aisle on the other side of the room. Okay. Um, but it was made it a lot easier to make the building, that's for sure. Oh, okay. Here we go. This is an interesting one. Um, as I mentioned, this fellow back east, Dan Raymond, he and I were on a forum years ago together, and he posted this photograph. And I said, that's an interesting structure. Now, what can you tell me? And he has a little cabin up here. This is in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. And so he went and took photographs. I said, I need photographs all the way around so I can see what I'm looking at. I need the size of the clapboard. That's it. And so and then the historical society up there was able to give me more information, gave me names of people to talk to. Now this is probably 15 years ago, and I've got like 4 or 5 letters from people that lived in the area, knew the building, and so forth. Well, it turns out that the main house, which is from the chimney to your right, was the main house, the original house, and it was built by a guy who moved to St. Johnsbury or returned to St. Johnsbury after World War I and bought up some property, which happened to be a huge stand of trees. So he opens up a sawmill and starts cutting wood. So he builds this building. But from the chimney to the right is his house. Somehow he must have been an elected official, and I don't know the details on this, but the funny little square box and the one with the porches was an add-on. My understanding that that portion of the building was a fire station, horse-driven, and because the roof was vented on both front and back of the roof, and the living quarters for the fire people were in that area with the porches. So, but talking to these people, getting help from them really was quite interesting. It was a lot of fun. So, how do you figure this out? Well, if I know the size of the clapboard, now I can count up every. You can see the little scribbly notes on here. 12 feet 3 inches, 32 inches. Whatever. So I'm sitting here with all these drawings of all the parts and counting up the actual the numbers. And there's a lot there. And corbels I did on a laser. So then I made a drawing the old-fashioned way with my pen and paper, and of all the views. I made a I don't have it here. I don't have it here. I have a white model. I made that up so I could put it in on the layout, see what it looked like, um, and then started to build. Oh, here's the drawing. Okay. Anybody that took drafting back when they were a little kid learned how to do this. And I just spray cement it onto a piece of white cardstock and glue them all together, and it looks like a three-dimensional building. And I can see it. I can look at it and make any changes that I have to. This is still the white model, but there appears to be something in the background. I don't know what that was, but anyhow, going back to what I said earlier about Thurman Station, long buildings have a tendency to want to warp. I'm going to show you that in a minute. There's another picture of it in where the area is actually on the layout. Okay. So what I did was I built a beam. The in the lower left of that, or lower right of that photograph, you can see what looks like a bunch of triangles and vertical surfaces, and that basically prevents the structure from. There's a few more that were added later on, but they want to warp, and so I wanted to prevent that because all the hours you put into this, you don't want it to have all of a sudden become a banana. It's not a pretty sight. Okay. And so it took a while, but I got it the way I thought it would work just fine. Now, if you'll notice in the lower left-hand photograph, you can see the inner structure and the outer structure. You can see the outer structure in the upper right and the inner structure on the upper left, and then the assembly in the lower right. Now, what I did was I made it so that I had French cleats on the walls of the building all the way around, so that the structure itself was the beam internally. And that puppy has not moved one anything. I mean, it's strong as hell. I mean, you could, I won't say drop it, but I mean, it's very, very strong. And it's fully detailed, completely detailed. So here you're seeing doing the roof, a lot of bracing, as you can tell. I'm a very firm believer on bracing. It's very critical. Now, I dropped in the lower right-hand photograph is the finished building. I dropped that from 3 feet. And before you groan, the only thing that happened was this corner right here, this post fell off, and that's the only thing that happened. The rest of it stayed intact. And I'm going, whew. It's no fun to drop a model and see it break up, after the amount of time you put into it. I said just more details here. Then, so as I said, Dan Raymond was the guy that sent me the photographs. Well, Dan Raymond is into cars, not full-size cars, but HO scale cars, and he does a beautiful job painting and weathering cars. And so if you'll notice that the sign says Ramos Garage, and in here is a junkyard. And what I did was I called Claire up at the guy in Canada that makes the cast resin cars. And I said, Claire, you wouldn't happen to have any extras that are all damaged, a fender missing, didn't fill, whatever. He said, sure. So there's probably a dozen cars in there that I've painted and weathered and made them kind of, icky with a crane. And Dan has seen this photograph many times. Okay. Going back to the book by Randolph By, Fort Edward Station obviously is in Fort Edwards, New York. And I said, that's an interesting structure. It's a challenge. That's why I look at it. Okay. It's a challenge. Although that roof line is going to be a bear. And so from the watercolor, I got lucky. One of the guys that I know through NMRA said, I have a friend that has access to the D&H documentation. I said, you do? And so he sent me a set of drawings, plan and elevation of that station. And so you'll see on the right-hand side upper is the white model, and on the right-hand side below is white model along with the beginnings of the foundation of the building. That's the finished building with the little eyebrow window, and it's all scratch built. And actually, I made two of them. It's a funny thing to say. I don't get any ideas. He sent me the drawing. I made the model, and I said, I'm going to make one for you as well because apparently his father was very familiar with the area, and so I made. It's just easy to do two as one is sometimes. And the only thing missing on this is more of the birds. On the actual building on my railroad, there are birds. Okay, uh, and I've taken most of these structures. The guy's grown when he see me coming into the contest room, you know, but that's okay. It's fun. Uh, oh, okay, fine. Um, I do have a next project, and my next project is coming from the same book, and it's a little bit more of a challenge. And well, I'll just show it to you. This is Whitman Station in Whitman, New York, and this goes back many years. This was as it was built, and again, the painter, the guy that did the watercolors, showed what happened afterwards. Well, back in the '70s, some kids got in and did that. Or I won't say to the ground, but destroyed the station. So I'm going to build two, one as built and one as burnt. I've got most of the materials assembled to start this. I've got the drawings done, and I've been playing with what burnt wood looks like, and so forth. But there's a friend of mine here in town, Alan Gross, who's got more MMR awards for structures than you can imagine. And he goes, you know, you need lights flickering and some smoke generators, gurgling and so forth. I said, okay. He said, I'll help you on this one. So anyhow, okay. All right. So here's a quick tour of some of the photographs. This is the Duffy's garage. That's mill in the background. That's a FOS kid on the other side. This is some more. You see the Duffy's garage again, and you see the East End Market. Now, what I've been doing, this may sound crazy, but I've been putting LED lights in my vehicles, and that's a bear. It's fun when you turn them on. I've got them in headlights, and depending on where the vehicle sits, I had headlights and taillights, and it does really make a difference. You walk in and see these things, you go, oh my God, that is cool. So I keep my eye out looking for those Ulrich trucks. They're harder out here. That's hard to find. This is a view of the station, Chester. This is Fort. Yeah. Now, years ago, right after I got married, I was a late bloomer, but whatever. Um, my wife said she wanted to help me with the hobby besides buying me a couple pieces of brass. So uh, I said, most layouts don't have enough people. I said, what I need are people. So we were at a national train show up in the Bay Area, so happens. And so I bought her 18 boxes of Pricer figures, unpainted. For anybody that knows, that's about 100 to 150 people in a box. She now gives classes. We went to the National in Dallas last year. She gave a class on how to paint people, and it's hysterical to watch people watch modelers paint people. I'm not going to get into it, you know, but it's very nice. So this is the town of Little Falls. Uh, and let's see, all the cabins are all scratch built. The tower is scratch built. The building over here is scratch built. That's a building that was in Morristown, New Jersey, where I grew up as a kid. That was called Farm Service Exchange. Uh, okay, this is my next garage that I'm working on. I'm almost done with this one. It's bigger than the first one. This has lifts. It has a truck bay as well, machine shop, big machine shop in the back, and the obligatory bathroom in the front, and full of people and everything else. Again, all the roof is trussed off like you do a normal roof of a building. This is Thurman Station. I call it Ironia Station only because it is in my name of my railroad town. Uh, and Ruby's Diner is a napkin ring from Ruby's Diner in California. And I said, hey, that would make a perfect sign. So, and again, the Ruby's Diner is half scratch built. The building itself is a plastic kit from City Classics. There's another, I'm sorry. Yes, there is. There's another building below it that's scratch built. And then this one is fully scratch. And I guess we have done, guys. Do I have any questions? That's the best part.
Yeah, hi,
So,
this is Frank. This is Greg. Do you
yes,
how often do you make jigs when you want to do like roof trusses or stairs or stuff like that so you get
never,
repeatability?
never,
Really? Oh my God.
never. I'm a
Now, don't set
masochist.
the bar too high for us.
No, 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 no. Well, I listen. When you say stairs, you can buy stairs in plastic. Okay,
Yeah.
so it depends. If the application is such that it calls for that, I'll make them in plastic. You can hide that. But I'm trying to think where I have stairs. I don't think I have that many, to be honest with you. Okay,
Mhm.
all my rail is code 70, as well as Russ's. Russ was in, as I may have already mentioned earlier, he was in it to he helped me with an HO scale back in the late 70s, early 80s. And then he built this place up in Pine, and I helped him build that. I said, Russ, I said, got to remember, when I retire, we're not driving to Pine. I said, that's 2 hours up, 2 hours back. You got a couple hours to play. It's not very much. So we head on to his house. So I got a railroad buddy 4 houses away. That's life, that's a sweet deal. And so I make buildings for him. He's the electrical guru. I'm the kind of guy that takes two black and red and white, and it goes, and then no, he handles that. I do have another building here. I haven't built this one yet. This is another Yakima Apples building that I designed that I'm thinking of putting someplace. I don't know. Um, I have a bad habit of building these things, and since I can't find them, I give them to somebody. But yeah, it's probably I shouldn't say not the best hobby, but I mean, to me, it's a lot of fun. You know, you meet a lot
Okay.
of great people all over. I'm doing the national show in Chattanooga next year. My wife will probably do painting to people, and I'll do structures. You know, so
Okay. Frank, it's Nigel Phillips here. From a technical viewpoint, I'm looking at what you've got on the screen at the moment, and how far do you go in building this as a builder would build it, which would be plank by plank, versus building one side of the building as a complete subunit? So I'm looking at the end of this and I'm thinking, easiest way to build that would not to do it in situ, but actually to me, I'm dead lazy when I do this sort of stuff. I would have a print and I'd use the print as the basis and actually glue the wood to the print as I was going along. So how do you do it?
Nigel, this building was in mainline modeler years ago. Great. If you ever can find some old issues, uh, buy them or whatever.
Oh, I
Because
do.
or
I do. It was a
they're
great magazine.
spectacular. I wish that man was still alive because
Yeah.
I had a whole folder of buildings that he, would show, and that was one of them. And I
Okay.
just thought it was marvelous. So I would build. Um, the wall where the Ironia sign is, that's just one piece. The front wall
Okay.
is all one piece. The
Right.
back
Okay.
is all one piece. The hardest
Right.
part on that was the back because of all the railings and banisters and so forth. That was tricky, but it didn't take that long. I got pretty good by this point. Better than normal, I mean, we all built little square boxes, but
Yeah.
but the biggest problem I had was the warping. I wasn't prepared for that.
Right.
Uh, you know,
It's okay. Can I just make a comment about warping? For anybody contemplating building this sort of structure in styrene sheet, um, I think you would have to be prepared for a lot more warping than you get with
oh
wood.
yeah, yeah,
Much more, to the point I built something that big, which was, now what was it? It was the engine shed at a British station called Fairford. And it was about, I did it in HO scale, and in real life, it was something like 100 feet long. It was an old Brunel structure. And I made the mistake of building it in styrene sheet. And luckily, I had to put the model to one side and then come back to it 6 months later, whereupon I took one look at it and binned it because it had warped so much.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was just not, it was not a rescue job at all.
Right.
Um,
Well, this one warped, so then I put a piece of plywood down and screwed it down real good. Then put the building on top.
okay.
So I knew the plywood wasn't going to move because it was screwed in so well. And then the building would not warp because I had a lot of glue,
Yeah.
and it hasn't warped in probably, I don't know, 15 years or more.
It'll stay. Yeah.
There may be a
Great.
Can I
big
ask a
crack
stupid
one.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great stuff. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I wanted
Very
to
good.
ask a stupid question.
Yeah,
No
I'm
questions are
jealous.
dumb.
For somebody who doesn't work in wood much, I'm curious about the technique. I mean, if you're building a side, I mean, you say it's basswood. I assume it's bass plywood. And then the
Yes.
question is, how do you go about cutting all those window openings without screwing everything up?
Yeah.
They make these things called X-Acto blades.
Yeah?
You buy them by the hundred.
Ah,
It's all made in China. Might as well take it. We don't make anything anymore, unfortunately. But I mean, you go through all the blades. I mean, I might cut a window and then put down and put another blade in.
Yeah.
oh, okay. I see.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
another question.
because your finger by the end of the day, your fingers are going to be like this. Okay, they are a real nuisance. So I would say use blades. Don't say sparingly. I don't know what I think like $6 for 100 blades, something like that. Buy them. It's cheap insurance. I have pointy, angular, and flat blades that I have here, and it doesn't take long. I mean, I probably took, I don't know, uh, that one front wall without the Pucci window side probably took me a day to cut all those windows, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
And plastic doors, you can't complain about those. They're wonderful.
Right.
Uh,
Um, one more question and then one more comment, if that's okay. Did
sure.
I hear you mention that you actually use laser cutting?
I'm sorry.
Do you use laser cutting at any point on
No,
this?
no, sir.
No, it's still
No.
hand cut. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm still back to
I'm
the
actually
old
from the
hammer and
machine
chisel
guy.
kind of guy.
An
I,
What
I have
was
exacto
the
a friend
blade.
of mine.
Oh, yeah.
I have a friend of mine here in town who has the lasers,
Yeah.
and interesting guy. Um, he and his wife invented a company called TurboTax. You familiar with the company?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, he retired. He and his wife, and he's the nicest guy you ever want to meet. Does not put on airs or anything else, but uh, he'll say, "Oh, do you need those windows? I'll make you some." And so everything that he's building for his railroad will be. Hang on, let me see. I get it one. You see that? Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's printed, 3D printed.
It's 3D printed.
Yeah,
Okay. Even
yeah.
worse.
That's
Okay.
that's the,
Yeah.
of course, that's the new technology. But I'm still back in a hammer chisel.
Yeah.
And I like the wood. I really do. And styrene as well. Styrene is a nice medium. It's a little bit more time consuming, but I do take a lot of kits. Um, remember City Classics? Let me see if I can do this. Can you see anything way back there? Any as far as city buildings?
Yeah.
No?
Too small.
Okay. Well, some of those are, I don't know, tall.
I think
me
if you
grab one.
turned off the slide presentation, we could see that better because you're small. You're in an inset right now.
Hang on. I'll get one.
No, if you go up to the caret up where it says Frank Baker's screen and click to meeting, you can see his full screen.
Yeah,
Ah,
I can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Oh, I pull that out, this out. Power. All right, let's go take a walk. Now, how do I change the camera? Can I change the camera?
If you're on a laptop, I don't think you can, Frank.
Yeah, if you're on your
Okay,
phone,
well,
I don't
I'll
know.
turn this around. I gotta look at the picture here.
Okay.
Just don't drop it on your layout.
No, I will not. I'm way off the layout. I got 3 feet. But you can see that some of those, well, the yellow one is a Walters kit, but the rest of them are City Classics. And I'll come down a little bit farther. This area is what's under construction right now in detail.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Great. And I said one comment. You can get ply made from Baltic birch, which is extremely thin. And I found over the years that it's just not prone to warping. It's actually very good quality stuff, and you can get it down to about, I think, a 16th or a 32nd, well, a 32nd of an inch thick, and it just does not warp. It doesn't warp to the extent that some of the other plies do. So if anybody's gets into this, check out what you're going to use first of all, and it's probably worthwhile building a very small structure and then leaving it for a couple of months just to see whether it warps or not before you go any further, and just to make sure that your wood supply is going to be appropriate for what you're trying to do. Yeah.
yeah, well,
They tried painting both sides of the board to keep it from warping.
no. No.
No. Okay.
No. It's a nice idea, Nigel, but it doesn't work too well. I'm a fervent believer of bracing. Okay. You might have a quarter by half inside there. Like this station here, I'll bet you I have 3 braces, one in the middle, one on the top, one on the bottom, and it's probably a quarter by half. And then it's mounted to another piece of wood after that. And I've had no problems, knock on wood. But I'm in a dry climate. You guys, not so much. If you have a basement and you're playing with your railroad, you might have a problem. Styrene is another material that's not bad either.
Yeah, my basement, it's all heated and cooled down here. And
Yeah.
the temperature stays upper 60s, 70, 72, and the humidity's right at 45%.
That's nice. Yeah. I mean, just everybody has a different environment they're living in, and so and I can't move this. I'm not going to move it. And I get the downsizing drill every once in a while as I'm getting up in years, but maybe I can find somebody who wants to buy a railroad with a house on it, we'll see. But no,
Right.
it's
There was a question in the chat asking if you knew of a way to fix warpage after it happened. If you got a building that's warping, how to fix it.
Yeah, it's called clamps. Actually, I have a couple of things too. These are steel blocks. That's about an inch thick, inch and a half by 3, and they probably weigh 5 pounds. And I have several of them, and if you use those in the right places, you should be able to take the warp out. Okay, don't sit there with a spray bottle and spray anything because that'll only make it worse.
Frank,
You know.
what scale are you working in on your layout?
HO.
HO. Okay, that was one of the questions out of the chat.
Yeah.
Another question that was in the chat was what product to use for subroofs?
Good question. There is a material called cardstock in if you go to a hobby store, an art store, not a Michael's or anything like that, but you go into a good hobby store, they make cardstock in various thicknesses. And let me grab, that's a light one. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Okay, that was a bad thing to do. This is cardstock. Let me see what the thickness of it is.
Is that the stuff they call Strathmore board? Or is that different?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's just paper that's been glued in several pieces, several ways, and it's probably 6 to 8 ply, if I'm not mistaken, Lee. I'm looking for something to call a ruler. I found it. Okay, let me put a light on so I can see what I'm doing. That's about. Oh my God. Strong 8, almost 3/16 of an inch thick. Oh, you see that, but it's it's strong stuff. And that I have under all my buildings because it really keeps it from moving.
So it's a laminated, it's like a plywood, but it's cardstock.
It's paper.
Oh, paper.
Go into an art store and ask for I'll get you the original, the right name, but it's a cardstock material, and it's back where they would be doing framing and stuff like that. Don't go to Michael's, go to a real art store, and just say you want to buy a 3-ply or 5-ply cardstock and take a look at it. All right, it's basically brown, grayish brown.
I told you
It's
about
heavy.
that station I'm getting ready to build, that Hanover Junction.
Yeah,
So it's good somebody asked about that because that's probably something to be a better backer for what it is than what I'm looking at using. So
yeah. I have used it exclusively and under my buildings. They're scratch built, and I have no problems whatsoever. None.
Frank, if you're done with the presentation, if you can stop sharing, we can see
Sure.
what you're putting in front of your camera much better.
Okay, let me find stop sharing. You're up here at the top. Jay Mousy, you're on. Why aren't you? I will go.
There
Okay,
you
there you
go.
go. All right.
It makes you much bigger.
Yeah. Boy, somebody's got a sense of humor. I like Martin's image here. So, but it's a great hobby. I mean, I was director for the NMRA out here in Arizona for 8 years, I guess, something like that. And people used to groan. Lee will tell you this. I went to the contest room and I had a building. People would groan. Oh God, we're in trouble now, right, Lee?
it was always a contest to see how many birds we can count on the roofs of it if we can find them all.
I am known for my birds. That is true.
Frank, if I could ask, those look like sunlights in your roof of your building there. Is that correct?
Skylights, yes, I have skylights. Yes.
Does the sun ever fade any of the colors on your layout, or is it
No.
filtered some? Or
Yes, what I did was, between the fluorescents and skylights, it gets pretty bright. But I learned early on that the skylight brings too much light in. But when the guy came and sprayed my roof, I said, "Do me a favor, let's go once, not down here." And then I said, "Do it again." "Fine, that's it. Stop. Do the rest of them." So because I have 6 of them here, and I have a bunch of them in the house as well, and it's nice. I got a nice frosted light.
Ah,
Okay, and it's well, you turn the lights out, you can still see everything in the room pretty well.
yeah.
And I don't have any. Well, you will have problems over time. as far as cracking or something like that, because it's plastic and that has a certain longevity to it. That's it. But as far as if I turn the lights out, I mean, it still looks pretty nice in here.
Wow.
Okay. When I can sit in here and work at my desk with just that one light on, and it's very comfortable.
Well, I think you're closer to the sun than most of the rest of us in the other 48.
I actually can't help that.
We get a lot less overcast too.
Yeah, I can't tell you when it was cloudy last. So, but yeah, it's such a nice hobby, and like I said, I played with it as a kid. My grandson came in here, and his first comment was, "Could I clean some?" I won't say what I said. What I wanted to do was give him a boot, but hey, everybody's a little different. Today, everybody is into their phones. That is their noni, and he walks around with this thing. I go, get a life. There's more to life than just that stupid little box, but that's me.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of us.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we all, as the kids get older, they're going to be that way, and it's just something they've gotten used to. And can't say much more about that than that, leave it alone.
Frank, as far as finishing on your structures,
Yeah.
Are there any particular stains or the like that do you like to use more so than others?
Stain. I use these different varieties of Craftsman paints.
Okay.
But the trick is don't use it full strength. I have somewhere around here in this. Well, you can't see the mess. Well, maybe you can. Okay. Does it look
Looks like
familiar?
a workbench.
Okay. Huh?
Looks like a
well,
workbench.
Yes, exactly. So what I will do is I will put on a pigment and then immediately I go to Home Depot and I get these white rags and I wipe it off. And then I may use the nail hole maker, and then I'll put a little bit of whitewash of the black India ink. And I've got like 3 different batches of light, medium, and heavy of that as well. And that makes it punch. It really makes it stand out. Okay. But I don't use the paint I say full strength. I don't do that. Somewhere's in this collection, Ernie, I've got a panel, and I don't know where it is, but I have a panel of all the different colors I've used. And so I've limited it down to maybe a dozen different colors that I use.
So you thin it with water, or do you thin it with a little alcohol to keep the water down so it doesn't warp it as much?
No, water.
Just water?
Yep. But you're not just going glug glug with the water. Hang on. We all know what this is, right? A yogurt cup.
Mm-hmm.
So I take and I squirt a little bit of paint in here and mix a little water in there until I feel like I like the consistency. I'll paint the board. I'll wipe the board. Then I'll put the nail holes, and then I'll put the alcohol and India ink.
Okay.
But don't ever use it full strength. Full strength. It just doesn't work well. I thought I had another one. It just dies too strong. It's too bright.
I heard you say that you use Elmer's white glue. Is that what I heard you say? Pretty much.
Hang on. Let's see it down here. I buy it by the gallon.
Yeah.
And when I was really building a lot, I would go through a gallon of white glue in about every 3 months.
Now, do you use it full strength or do you cut it down?
Oh, I use full strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're using
And sometimes I even use the yellow. I think for a while I've had both here.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, folks, do you have any other questions for Frank? He's been a wealth of
don't be
information
bashful.
for us.
Don't be bashful. And if you're ever out here, you're more than welcome to come by. Right, Lee?
Yes, sir. Yep. It's a great layout to visit. I've seen it several times. It's always something new, but it's one of those layouts that you go in and even if you've seen it a week and then you go back a month later, you find more new
Something's
stuff.
different. Yeah.
Even though he may not have changed anything or added anything onto it, It's just that you see different stuff every time you look at it.
I've heard that before. It is, even when I get in there, sometimes I go, did I do that? You know, but it's a wonderful hobby. I mean, you know, I'm a sociable kind of guy, you know, and sometimes I'm working in the front yard and people say, oh, I just love your yard. I say, okay, fine. If you like the front, let me show you the back. And my wife and I bought this house 1978 in as is condition. And needless to say, our backyard is a lot different than most. And it's also, then they say, what is this building over here? So I bring him in to show him the train room. That really freaks him out, you know? Oh, it's a great hobby. Great hobby. A lot of very nice people. You know, never met anybody that just sort of, you know, didn't care for.
Well, Frank, I want to thank you very much on the part of the Potomac Division for taking time
my
out of your
pleasure.
schedule and providing a lot of
retired.
good information and a very good presentation of what you have on
Thank
your
you, Ernie.
layout.
Appreciate it.
But the information was just incredible and outstanding work.
Well, if
Outstanding
anybody
work.
gets out this way on a vacation or whatever, Lee has my number and give me a call.
We can do that. If there's no other questions, we'll let Frank get to what he needs to do out there. I know it's early for him. For us, we got let's see, Philadelphia's 13-10 over the Rams right now, so I guess
That's good.
everybody's happy about that. And of course, everybody's happy about the win last night on the part of the Commanders. But with that, I'm going to turn the recorder off. And
Okay. Well, thank you again.
and thank you very much.
All right. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.